to the cloud. All right, so the recording's on. And so again, so the webinar, we'll get started here in a couple minutes, but in the chat even, if you guys want to talk through, I was just curious, so I play with a lot of text files, and they come from a lot of different sources, but where are the sources that you guys get your text files from? Is there anything anywhere in particular? I know log files from, servers and system OS stuff, and log files from programs, right, are big ones. I had exported my LinkedIn data, and I think you can do the same thing in Facebook, and I was parsing through that. But is there, you get them at Walmart, or are you answering a different question? That's funny.
Yeah.
But is there anywhere else where you guys typically end up getting your data files from? Are they, and is it work or fun or both?
Yeah, I'd say mostly it's work for me, where I actually get text files that needs to be parsed in some way. Because for fun, I don't really have that many text files where I need to actually have something come out. But yeah, I'm unsure if Captain Odin, he's saying he's getting his text file from fun, or maybe he's just working with other people's text files.
I think he's, right.
Yeah, but where do you actually get text files? They're either there from some other program making them. It's not very common for me to actually see that many text files. It's often some program of some sort that can export to CSV or some other format like that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Because my background's in statistics and data, right? I'm have forever been playing with files. Typically, they're text files and not structured data files, and they're definitely not binary files. But it's an often thing I'm dealing with on a daily basis, I'd say. All right, so shall we get going, Jackie? You think?
Yeah, it's about time, right?
Okay. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jackie, and I've been doing these webinars with Joe Glines for some time now, and we are both quite ecstatic about AutoHotkey, and it's been that for years now. And we love to actually share what we do, and hope that everybody else does as well. So I'm just glad we are able to share this with you. And how about you, Joe?
Yeah, and actually, so I didn't look at it, but I think this is our 12th. We've been doing these for a year now, the webinars. I know you and I have been talking longer, but I think this is our 12th actual webinar on topics. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And which Jackie didn't mention, neither of us are programmers, right? He is definitely far along the path of understanding objects and playing with things than I am, but we both fake it pretty, he fakes it a lot better than I do. But I fake it enough to at least know what can be done. But I love it because it just saves me time, and I love automating things and making life easier, not just for myself, but for people I either work with or that I know. And so it's a passion, and AutoHotkey is the main tool I use, but whatever, I try to make the tool fit what I'm trying to do. And then today's topic, we're going to be, I'm going to talk through real quickly what text files are, where they come from, some of the built-in stuff in AutoHotkey. And then Jean Lalonde, he had written a library using AutoHotkey that can parse text files. Jean, you want to introduce yourself real quickly? Oh, and you're on mute for some reason. How did you get on mute? Just mime yourself. I hit on there.
Okay, here am I.
Yeah.
Hi. I don't remember the question, but I would first say that I'm from Montreal, speaking French as my primary language, so my accent sometimes and my vocabulary sometimes can make me search for my words. But yes, I'm developing for about I'm coding for about 30 years now, never or almost professionally. So it's for fun and to be more efficient that I'm doing that. I love AutoHotkey because it's portable, because it's easy to develop tools and to distribute tools using a compiled version too. So a few years ago, I started to develop a program that you will show in a minute that I'm always improving, following the comments from users and suggestions they do on my website. And one of the first things I developed was in AutoHotkey was this library to handle text files, because I had some issues with text file that I wanted to process. So it's something I did some long time, about 2 or 3 years ago. But I'm happy to share this with you today.
Cool, awesome. And actually, so he alluded to, Jean alluded to another program. All right, so here's the other things for those of you who don't know. So there were 46 people registered. We, of course, usually have low turnout. I think, especially because end of summer, people are traveling, we won't have that many today. But you start off muted just because if everyone was talking at one time, it would be pretty tough, right? And so by muting everybody, later you can put stuff in the chat or raise your hand, and what Jackie or I monitor that and try to pipe in things. You can ask questions whenever you want, but until the first hour basically is over, or if you have that complex of a question, you can write a note saying, I have a really complicated question, and then I can unmute you individually and you can ask it. It's just, we don't want to make it where everybody can unmute themselves. But we're not trying to be air hogs and talk, right? It isn't that. It's just that it's easier this way to go with the flow. But definitely chime in the chat whenever you have questions. And if they are more complicated, just raise your hand and say, can I talk? And then we'll unmute you. So where was I going with this? So we typically have in our webinars a tool, a script to highlight, right, of something we found cool. And what was funny was, Jean, what would it be, like a month ago? I wrote you and said, hey, years ago I looked at your library on parsing CSV files, and I ran into the same issue again, and can you help me out in understanding how to use your library? And so he agreed, and we were talking through how to use it. And then at the very end of the conversation, he said, hey, have you looked at my other tool that I really kind of focus on now? And I'm like, no, I haven't. So I went and looked at it, and it's this tool called Quick Access Popup, and it's all built, of course, in AutoHotkey, but its target audience isn't people who use AutoHotkey, right? It's for people who just want to work more efficiently, which, of course, I still fall into that boat as well. It has a lot of great built-in features. One of the ones I was just explaining earlier is it's highly customizable, but it's also easy to update. And so, like, this is the menu. I just hit my hotkey, which right now is my middle mouse button. And I built this menu off of the things I wanted to have in it. And so let me see what's the best way. Well, I'll jump to a folder, right, is one of the best ones. Like, oh, if I want to pop open, and of course it'll probably open on my other, opens on my other screen. But it can, trying to drag it over, but the zoom tool is in the way. Here we go. So it opened up that folder for me, right? So I can pre-build, let me hit this is my shortcut pulling it up, my settings. And of course, that's on the other menu as well. These are the settings for it, and you can go in and say, oh, I want to add something new, right? I'm going to add, it's probably, yeah, it was hidden behind the other Zoom window. So what do I want to add? I want to add like a shortcut to a folder, to a document, a program, a special folder, a link, even FTP, you can have it log into a site automatically for you. Or for me, a snippet, which is basically, like a bunch of text, or in my case, typically code, that I want to have at my fingertips, which is awesome. And then you can create groups and submenus and everything. It's highly customizable. It's available in 10 different languages that you can basically skin it and have the thing shown to you, customized for your language. And you can, boy, Jean walked me through it, and I think we took about 1.5 hours to walk through all the minutia of the things that you can configure with it and set. It was quite an amazing tool. I love it because in AutoHotkey, I build these menus, right? So here's my menu, and I can jump up here, and if I clicked this, it would send text. It's like a snippet. But it takes me so much time to write the AutoHotkey code to build these and include the icons and everything, whereas in the quick access pop-up, it literally is like 30 seconds for me to add a bunch of code, including the icon that I want to use for it. And so I'm slowly kind of migrating my stuff over, because going forward it'll be really easy for me to add new things to the menus, and have things to have it under my selection. I see. Is there a question in the chat? Unfortunately I had to close mine because of the
No, there's not a question in the chat.
Okay.
There was just a
Gotcha.
link to the website quickaccesspopup.com.
No, I'm not going to unmute you, Jean. I think are you muting yourself? Is that it?
Yes, I should not.
Yeah. No, because
Okay.
people
I
can't
cannot
unmute. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have something to add in?
As you said, we talked about an hour about that, and if people are interested, there's as you put the link in your slide, there's a link to this chat that we had, just you and me.
Yeah.
And we recorded that so that it can be of interest for other people. Yeah, it's you showed how we can use it with a menu. We can also assign shortcuts,
Yes.
mouse or keyboard shortcuts to any favorite that you put in your menu. I'm working on adding hot string, so it's an evolving product, still having good ideas, and Joe is kind of the first programmer using the tool to put snippets with code in it, so it raised some issues that I haven't got before. So the website is very active to have users send comments and suggestions, and there's a beta test page. So for users who are programmers or interested in being a little ahead, you can also subscribe to the beta versions of the tool. So you're invited to look at it if you want.
The other thing that I loved about it was it interacts. Let's say if I'm in the open, and this Microsoft kills me. Let's do save as. See, and it doesn't even, all right, it finally, will it come up here now? So with these windows, it'll interact, like I can be in here and I'll hit my hotkey and say, I want to jump to my icons folder. And it'll automatically detect my open, I'm blanking on the name of those, not command windows, what are those called?
Dialogues?
Dialogue with which I love for both the open and save, which is really cool. Or if you have an Open Explorer window, it'll go to that. So that
when you select the menu in an existing window, Explorer or dialog box or Total Commander or Directory Opus, it will change the folder inside this window.
Yeah.
And if you click anywhere else, it will open a new window to show you the folder that you asked for. And there's something new also in the dialog box. It's very useful. If you are in your Windows Explorer in a given folder, you switch to a dialog box, and then you hit Shift-Control-C if you kept the original default shortcut. It will take you to the folder where your Windows Explorer is. So it's easy to jump to where you were working in using Explorer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are lots. It's pretty amazing. Oops, and I just closed my PowerPoint deck, which, by the way, I will be sending out. So you don't have to worry about the links and everything in here. We'll share that. Typically, I get it out later tonight or the next day, and it'll be sent to email. Was this the one? I think so. All right, so that gets through. There's, what I would say is this is a quick overview and a little bit deeper dive. This one I think is, I forget how long this is, but I think this one's about 6 minutes. But this video, it's long, but it really goes into all the ins and outs of what you can do, and it's a very robust, well-designed.
There's a short 5-minute overview if you wish on the website.
Okay.
On the website too.
Yeah, I think that's what I linked to here. But cool. Okay. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
So and I think everyone on this call, what are we up to now? It looks like 12 participants. Is going to laugh when I highlighted and I even hyperlinked what is a text file, right? But when I used to work for a Fortune 500 company, one of my colleagues was trying to open a file in Excel, and she says it can't open it. I'm like, you can open it. It's a text file. It can open it. It can pop it up. She's like, no, it can't open it. I'd already tried it. And I'm like, she didn't understand when I said it's a text file. She didn't understand what that meant. And so I wanted to make sure, it's like, okay, you know what? The contents of the thing, if you open it, there are characters that you can read, almost regardless of what program you open it with, Notepad or WordPad or Word or PowerPoint or, Cite or AutoHotkey Studio, whatever, right? It's just text that's stored in there.
Yeah, it's a plain text file.
You know what? And I thought about that after. I wish I had added plain text. I added it down here, but that I think is a better description of it. Also, there's no RTF, right? There's no rich text formatting and hyperlinks and things.
Exactly.
Would have better defined it and cleared it up. And then, right when the webinar started, I was just trying to kill some time, and so I was saying, I get a lot of data. Text files from either log files from programs I use, or from my server, or from the OS itself, or the other day I exported my LinkedIn data, which is loads of fun, and from Facebook, or WordPress also has a lot of stuff that you can get your text data out of, or also like, let's say, Google Analytics, right? Things like that. A lot of those things typically dump out stuff in just text. Does anybody here have any things that they typically get their data from, other than Walmart, which someone mentioned earlier? I think they're on sale right now. But if anyone wants to chime in the chat there, that list is endless. I was just curious of where people end up getting their files they play with, in your financial data, right? If it comes back from the banks and things. The other big topic in this one, actually last night, Maestricht and I, the author of AutoHotkey Studio, we were working through UTF encoding and some issues with it and how it works. And it's like, character encoding can be so confusing, and it's a topic we could spend 3 webinars on, and I could talk about the first 10 minutes of it, because that's about what I understand. But it's critical in understanding when you're playing with text files, right, of things that you run into with issues. And then the flat file, so that's typically databases are typically structured where it's a relational file and have multiple rows for a given thing. Well, a flat file is usually also a text file, but it's one row for a given, one row is an item for a thing, like it's a person's, activities for that day or whatever, but it's a flat file, meaning that it's not multiple rows with an identifier somewhere saying this is Bob, this is Bob, this is Bob across multiple rows. And so typically, not always, but typically text files are flat files. When I refer to them, they're flat files, but maybe for other people, I guess, because databases, obviously you can export them in their text files. And then the other difference with XML and JSON, of course, even in XML, there's a lot of structure in the data. And JSON, it's still structured, but it's not quite as within the programming language. You can't access things quite as directly as you can with XML. But they don't. In text files, there is no structure. Right, there are usually delimiters, or sometimes it's space delimiter, right? So that's not even true, but it doesn't necessarily have
structure.
Yeah, but it's not things wrapped in brackets with
There's no metadata about the data.
Yeah, true.
As you would have with XML or
Yeah. Well, that is another thing. I guess it depends how you define it, because some older text files, they'll take the first 4 lines and use that to describe some things about the overall data, and then your actual flat file starts at line 4, which can also cause problems when you're parsing data, right, in Excel, because you generally don't open Excel on the 4th line, or you don't even, if you just pop it in Excel, you don't have a choice of where you start. But that was just a high level. Let's go on to the next slide. Let's see. I was looking at some of the chatting here real quick for measuring data in CSV files, 60,000 lines of data. Yeah, that's super easy. And I've done stuff with millions of rows with AutoHotkey, and I was amazed at how fast it was. It wasn't lightning fast, but it was plenty fast. So that was awesome. And so we went through here and looked at different built-in commands in AutoHotkey, and these, I bolded the things that I typically will use when I'm parsing text data, and the bold thing is the ones I use a lot, I should say, because all of these at one point or another I'll use them. The first row is more about opening, finding the files you either want to loop over or open. Even the second row is the pending data, right? So when you get what you want, you save it. But there's a lot of built-in stuff that can manipulate text in AutoHotkey, and I'm not going to go through these. Maybe if people have questions about how to use them after we get through the stuff with Jean and his library, we can dig into some of them if you've had issues with them. We do have regex as a blast. We have a webinar on that, though. If you haven't watched that yet, that's a good one to start on. And but some of these, especially the string split, that substring and end string, those I use a ton, and they're incredibly helpful. And of course, trimming your data to get rid of specific characters on either side. So is that the next slide here is just there are a lot of libraries. Some in the first two, the ObjCSV and CSV Buddy, are the stuff that Jean is going to talk to. He's the author of. And then after that, the TF text file, that has been around for years, and I should say years and years, right, Jackie? I mean,
yeah, it existed when I started, and I don't know, you started before me, so it's at least 5, maybe 8 years old. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that.
And it's I'd say it's not for noobs, but for people who are just above noobs, it can be helpful. That's when I used it, and I'm like, oh, I can easily get this certain thing from a file or a certain row or look for a certain column. There's some great things in it. Some of these other ones, the CSV library is pretty cool. The table manipulation, if I remember right, it's for tabs limited data, but it had some cool functionality in that. SIFT is one I demonstrated, I think, on the regex video, but it gives you demonstrations of a lot of different ways that you can parse data with AutoHotkey. And then the CSV, I just included it here. It's a free program that does some amazing stuff. It's a lot like the CSV Buddy, similar to CSV Buddy, I'd say, but it's a free program that has a lot of cool built-in stuff, and so I decided to list it here.
And it's very easy to use on command line, so with parameters, so you can include it in batches easily.
Interesting.
CSV Buddy is more user interface GUI tool. But CSV Ed is a command line tool.
Well, but I mean, it has a GUI.
Yes, but you can use it.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah. Yep. Cool. I didn't know that. I only used it when I was, I just had a specific need and had to pop open a file real quickly, or I had to give it to somebody else, right, to do. All right. So now we're going to pass it over to Jean. Jean, why don't you talk to these? I'll scroll forward, and then when we're ready to switch over to actual programming, we'll share your screen.
Yeah, we can just start with the first slide, and I'll switch to I'll take the screen share to show. So what I will first show you is what is already included in AutoHotkey. It's the loop command that you can use with the parse command with the CSV option. So it will automatically parse the text that you have and separate the content easily for that, as long as the content is very standard. So Joe talked about text files. Usually they every record stands on one line. The most standard is comma being the delimiter between each fields. It can be tab, it can be different character that will do the delimitation, but the standard is that it stands on one line. But there are some issues if you have your records that stand on multiple lines. For example, if you have a physical address being written on 4 lines, it will break your structure, and the loop command in AHK, and I'll show you that, won't support this kind of text, which are still in the standard CSV format. But the CSV format is not a strong standard. It's a standard that has many flavor. Some support multi-line, some are comma separated, other are tab separated. So there's a lot of variation in the CSV. Some has a first line with the header, the column title. Others don't have this. So you need to adapt to that. But there are limits to what can be done using AutoHotkey itself. So that's when I found these limits that I started to develop my own tools to manage the file I had for the need I had at the time. And I decided to just continue and make it more robust and make it a library with functions that can be used to load the CSV file to an object or an array of objects in memory, in your AutoHotkey memory, then tools to save what is, so you can manipulate it when you have it in an object, and we'll see that. And then you can save it, or you can put it in a list view so that you can manipulate it or show it to the user. So that's the kind of tool I developed in this library. But first, I would take maybe 5-10 minutes just to show what can be done or not done with the loop command in AutoHotkey, and it will show the value of using the library, because of course it's more trouble to use the library than to using the built-in commands. But you will see the reason why you would want to use the library. So I could take the sharing. I cannot share. Joe, if you can allow me to share.
Maybe he's not there. He seems to be frozen in the image that I have of him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he crashed somehow.
Yeah, but I still.
Yeah. But
you can give. He is the admin of this conference, so you cannot give me the.
No, exactly. I can also only request the sharing of the screen. Yeah, I can't say.
Oh, I can share now.
Yeah, you're actually sharing now. Yeah.
I can share. I share my desktop. So you see, I'll switch to my editor. Do you see my text editor?
Yeah, we are seeing your screen now. Yeah.
Okay. So this is my first text file that I'll use an example. It's a list of Beatles songs with the title of the song, the album, the track number, the genre, the duration and size of the file. Each of these fields are separated by a comma, so it's a very standard file. Some fields that include a comma will be encapsulated in quotes here. So for example, I'll take here, we have Past Master Volume 1, there's a comma here, but it's still only one field because it is encapsulated between these commas. So that's the way to include inside your data the character that would usually be the separator. So I'll switch to my editor here and just load this file. So I already have this command here that says that this file is in a subfolder test file with the Beatles .csv, and I will read the file. And I'll use just I have a small library that I also included in what Joe will distribute. That is a kind of my debugging tools. So I have this command here that allows to paste the A loop read line. So,
Jean.
Yeah.
Just let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Guys, can everyone still see Jean's screen?
Yeah.
Jackie. Yeah. Okay, because my laptop freaked out, and so I joined Zoom on my phone, and it looks like everything's still running. I can't join back on the laptop. So anyway, Jean, you keep going, and maybe at the end of the hour, I'll switch back.
Okay.
Okay. Do you think can you still stop the recording and stuff?
It looks like it stayed recording. It says it's recording, so I think we're okay. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you're still admin, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, help me if you see some typos when I type. So I have a loop here that will read the text file I showed you. So the first line is in this case, in this file, is the header. So it includes the field name or the column titles. So string name, string album, long track number, etc. Second line is the first song, which is Hey Jude, then March of the Meanies, etc., etc. Now, for each of these lines, I will now do a second loop command using built-in loop command of AutoHotkey with the parse subcommand, and I will read this loop read line.
Yeah.
With the option CSV. So here in this in the third parameter, you could enter what would be the separator of this command that you want to parse. But I could enter comma, but then it will apply the logic of every comma I do a different section of the line. But if I use CSV, it will be a little more intelligent. It will take into account the fact that comma can be included between quotes and consider this as a field. So if I do the same thing here, and I will give me a second.
I still think you made a typo there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough. It was the color of the text that messed me up.
So I'll insert here the number of the line and the number of the field. And there is some issues here, the space between the dot. And here I should not use a index. Okay. Here I will use a variable that I will initialize here with the line number, and then we will have inside the second loop a index will give the field number.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And and here I'll put the data, which is the a loop field command.
You missed made a typo there. Yeah.
I'm always doing typos. Backspace is the most used key on my keyboard. Okay, there we go. So, first line, we have the header. Second line, we have first line, first field, and this field is the header. So we have name, album, track number, genre, total time, size. Now, second line, and I should put here just to make it a little more. There, we should be okay in the line. Okay, line 1, line 2, all the fields now, which is the song data, line 3, and everything is split correctly. If I go until line 6, I think I will see the field with the comma inserted in it. So we have here past master, comma, volume 1, which is between quotes, and I think I hit the stop command. So we would have the this field being handled correctly. So this works because my file is a very standard file. If I now, instead of using this file, I'm using a file which is tab delimited, which is very common. I think there is almost as much files that are tab delimited. Sometimes we'll see TSV instead of CSV for the extension. So we have the same data here, but with tabs between columns here. And if I try to use this file here, so the line reads correctly. But when I want to split, the field 1 include all the line because there's no comma on this line. So there's no separation, and we cannot tell AutoHotkey using the CSV parameter to use something else than the comma as a separator. So the only separator available is the comma. So we have this first issue that where there's a limit with this tool. And the other issue is if we have fields with multiple lines. So I'll give you this third example here. The Beatles lyrics.csv. It's a standard CSV file according to some user of this. So we have here the title, She Loves You. We have the album, which is Past Master Volume 1 with a comma between quotes. That's fine. 4. And now we have the lyrics, which are between quotes. So we have the beginning quotes here, but we have the end quotes here, 3 lines later. And between the two, we have line feeds. We add end of lines in this field. So for AutoHotkey, we have the first line here, we are okay. We have the different field titles. And now we have the first line where we have the lyrics, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. But then we have a second line, which is, okay, we have she loves you, line 2. Here we have the lyrics that end after she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. But we saw that we had 2 other lines. And now we have the next line, which is she loves you, yeah, 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 a line that does not conform to the structure, having title, album, lyrics, etc. So and you will frequently have this kind of files with lines break inside fields when you export from Outlook, from Google, Gmail, Google Contacts, LinkedIn Contacts, where we have some comments field, descriptions, addresses, physical addresses that will stand on multiple lines, and it makes this file unreadable with AutoHotkey, also unreadable with Excel, which is where you usually find the issue you have. You have your file, some parts are very nice, and suddenly you have lines that are not complete, and then it makes your file completely unusable with Excel. So that's where I started working on my own tools to develop that, and now I'll switch to the, unless there are questions, or is it okay to proceed? I would switch now on using my library.
I'd say it would be okay to proceed right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So already in this script inserted some variable holding contents. It will just make it easier when we enter a parameter to see what value is in different places in the parameter, because there are a lot of parameters in the functions that I wrote. And we'll use the first file, which is the first one with the comma here. And I'll just paste the reference content here, just to save a minute. So the library is named ObjCSV, or ObjCSV if you wish. It's a library that includes functions that are all named using this prefix and then the name of the function itself. So if you know how to use function, it makes it easy to link. You only have to put the library file inside a folder named lib, a subfolder of your script, and it will be usable there. Or it could be in some other folders in AutoHotkey. And then you have the parameters. So the first one is the file path of the file that you want to read. So it's str file, this file here. And by ref, you pass it a variable that will be populated with the content of the header of the file if this file has a header. Most frequently, CSV file, the first line will be the header. So you give it the file name, it will return the fields, and it will return an object that you can process after that will contain all the data in this file. To show what we have in this,
yeah,
I'll just write a little. So this will show us what is the header that has been returned from the function. And I'll use another debugging function I have, which shows the content of an object. I'll explain to you in a minute. It won't work the first time as usually. So let's see first what it gives. So it gives me that the fields is empty, so something is not correct. So it's my file. Yeah, S is missing here. That's the only thing. Okay, so we have the file that has been read. The function return the fields, which is the content of the first line of this file here. And the next command shows me that there are 50 or 49 rows in this file. It's not populated because I did a mistake that I'll try to fix right now. So it's not titled the name of the str name that I should put here. I think that's, yeah.
Is your
So we have here
Yeah. Is your library case sensitive? You just fixed the name small n to large.
No, it's not. It's me. I am case sensitive.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. No. So we have here the 40 lines that are inside this library. In fact, there are 50 lines. The first one is the header. And we have the first, so here we have an object. I could put it more straight using MSG message box and say, let's take a look at object from object number 1 to the first one in the array, and the field name str name. So here we have this message box here showing object 1 and the string itself. What I made with this function here is a function that will loop all the fields in the object and show one of these fields, so the str name here. Yeah. So that's why I'm using it to show that the content is now in an object that I can manipulate using my own tool.
Fair enough.
Of course, I could change this. I could say that now this will include hello. And now the first name here is hello because I manipulated the content in the array that I have in memory, but it was not the original content, so I just revert to it. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So now it just does quite the same that we did with the AutoHotkey. It reads the standard file, but now what we can do is to use the same library, the same function, to say that I will read a tab delimited file.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to add here a parameter in this command that says after the first two, I have this field here, which is string fields delimiter. So I'll have to put a few empty fields. How many? 1, 2, 3, and then this variable that holds here the tick T, which stands for tab. And now reading this file, we have the header. I should remove. Yeah, we have the message box. Mm-hmm. And then we have the same content, which has been correctly parsed, even if the separator was a tab instead of a comma.
Yeah.
Okay. So it solved the first issue we had. The second issue we had was the multi-line issue. So I'll now read the Beatles lyrics file. And here I have to say that it is a multi-line.
Jean,
yeah.
Can you zoom in just a little bit?
Yep.
Thank you.
Better? Okay, so we have now this the same parameters. It's not a tab file, this file. The lyrics file is a standard comma separated file. So I'll remove this. And we should have the result here where we have title, album, tracks, lyrics in this file. And yeah, it's not the same field, so for my object command, so I'll replace it here with title. So we have 18 songs titles, and if I change to the lyrics, what's the name of the I'll just return to my file. The file with the lyrics is here. So I'll use lyrics as the field that I want to show you in this command here.
Yeah.
Of course. What's wrong?
Something is off.
Murphy's law occurs now. So,
but this is a good example of what it's like, right? Even when you're using your own library, it's playing with stuff to get it to work right.
What's wrong with it?
Which is also why...
Maybe that's just this. No.
I love that site output function I wrote that will dump it in the output window, just so you can see a bit more of what's getting output, and you don't have to worry about those funky line breaks in the message box.
You have had a good use for that, Joe. That's for sure.
No.
Yeah, there's something I have to look at. I think the issue is with my function here, not with the library. So I'll proceed and I'll show you a little more.
Yeah.
So these are very small files. The library can also parse very large files, multi-megs files. I never went to hundreds of megs or to terabytes, but it can handle very large file. And there's a progress bar in case you have a very large file. So the example I'll use is this file here. Large file semicolon. So I'll just keep this one here. In French, whoops, large. In French, we often have semicolon as a separator by default.
Yeah, we do too in Denmark. That's what the Excel uses.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Excel uses for you. Yeah.
With your locale. Yeah, with your locale setting.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we have this file here. Large file. Anything else that has to be done? So I'll say that it is a multi-line file. I'll add the parameter to say show a progress bar, which is this value here, or progress type. There are two types of progress bar. One that will show in the middle of the screen. The other one will show in the footer of your GUI, where you have different fields that you can populate in the GUI, so in the status bar. So progress type. What else? I'll add that it is a semicolon separated file, and I'll put here the text that will appear in the progress bar. And hopefully it will work.
If everyone in the webinar would please cross their fingers.
So,
oh, look at that. Awesome.
Okay. So we have the fields, and there's of course a lot. So this object command is not very useful for this. So here I could I will use the command to show the content in the list view, but this one is very large, so just to save time, I can show you how it looks using CSV body, which is doing the same, but in a GUI that is very elaborated or complete if you wish. Okay, so that was for large file. I will now return to the demonstrations showing that you can also tell the function what is your header. If the text file has no header, you have to tell it what you want for the titles of each of your commands, each of your columns, excuse me. So we'll use the comma file, and I'll create a variable holding the name I want for, I should not put space here, title, album, position, genre, duration, and size. So this will be the header that will be used for the file. So all I have to say here is that is not to use the header. It is that there is no header in the file. So I'll remove the other parameters that we don't need. This should be removed. Okay, so here the title makes sense here because it's the name of the field that will be in my object, because it's the name of the field I tell the function to use. So let's see. So the fields are the one I gave. So they are, again, they are returned here by the function, but they are the ones I told the function to use, so they are not changed. And here the object is wrong. What's wrong? Now the name of the file is wrong. It's comma.
I was going to ask about that, but sorry. I thought I missed something earlier.
There we go. So we have now our 50 lines. Of course, I didn't change the file. I'm using the same file where the first line is in fact a header. I'm telling the function it's not a header. There's no header. Use this header. So this first line here is not, we should not be there. What I'll just do here, I will just remove it. I'll say remove the first line. So we have only the data we want here.
I saw a question about, just if you could, maybe you already did, but the pounds, that's a function, a debug type thing to
it's a little library that I sent you, Joe, that you could include in the package. And it is kind of my way of naming something that should not be left in the code when I distribute it to my user. So I make these pound very visible thing to see when I have to remove my debugging code. Because I'm not a good user of the debugging tools provided by CSV.ahk this time, Joe is teaching me how to use better this tool, this editor.
Yeah.
But I'm used to my own little tools like this. But if you find it interesting, it's interesting to look at it if you want to see how I manage these objects. So the next thing, I don't know how much time we have, maybe 10 minutes, 10 more minutes?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so we'll now put the content of the object into a list view. We'll see, and I'll proceed quickly, how to take this object and put it in a text file, but saying that we can change the delimiters, can change anything we want in the file. And in the end, how we can export it to an HTML file using a template. So I don't know in 10 minutes how good I will be. Maybe I will just copy some code that I already wrote for that.
Cheater.
Yeah. Joe didn't want me to use pre-written
No,
code.
no, that's not what I said. I
No.
just said
What did you say?
I said keeping it off screen.
Yeah.
It,
But I only
it's
have one screen on this system here. So.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Fair
so I'll
enough.
show it later. So
yeah, continue.
Yeah, okay. So a very simple GUI with only a list view on it. And I'm using this function here, which is collection to list view. I'm giving it the object, and there's a lot of parameters that I won't show you, but that you can use to say how, but in fact, we'll see some of them in the second example. Cross fingers. And here we have the list view with the header, which is, we have the titles of this field that we gave it, then the content. And of course, we can sort and manipulate this data as you can do with any list view.
Jean, on line 22, where you define the headers, if that was, let's say, a tabs limited file, would you have put tabs in between a set of commas?
Yeah, I would have to put tab.
Just making sure.
It has to be sync, if you wish.
Yep.
Okay, my second example. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, can it detect how many fields or?
Yeah, it will. If the header is the first line, it will use the number of fields it finds on the first line, and on the second line, it is assumed that there are the same number of columns. If there are more, or if you provide no header to a file, you say there's no header and you don't tell, it will use C1, C2, C3 for column 1, column 2, column 3. So if you provide 10 column titles, it could add if whenever on a given line it finds an 11th or 12th.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
And if you provide yourself here, you would have to provide the good number.
Okay.
Here is just to give you an idea of what can be done with this. I will say we will only display these three columns, and we will sort using the duration. Okay, and now we'll just remove this that we've seen enough, I think. So here we have only 3 columns. We don't have the duration or file size, and they are sorted on duration. So it's in maybe in seconds, or I don't know, but you see it grows. Oh no, yeah, and here it is sorted.
As a string
based on text. So there's an option to say to sort. I don't remember it, but you will see in the doc. There's an option to say to sort using numeric value.
Yep. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So now quickly how to now export this data to another file, and then I'll cheat again, Joe. Now that my secret is revealed.
Jean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't copy directly from that and paste unless you did you add that in? I think in a list view you can build it to where you can copy a row of data, but.
Oh yes, then you can program the list view to react to the double click to have some fields being editable. You'll see what I've done using CSV body. In that
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the output file will be beatlesong.tab. And I'll use the function collection to CSV. The file out is it's here. I say that there are headers in the file, and I will overwrite if I show it multiple times. It will not add, but if you run the function multiple times and not using the overwrite parameter, it will just add the content, and it is a tab separated file. Is it true? Yes, it is. So I hope it will work. Oh no, it says here that you export to a file using tab as delimiter. The source file is comma delimited, but the output file will be tab delimited. And Notepad will tell you if I'm right or not. Yeah, I think we are okay. So the original file is this one here, and the converted file is this one here. The order is not the same because the object sorts the content by the name of the key. but it's the same content we have here. The header are different. Oh, it's not the same file. It's not a good example. I don't think.
It's all right. We get the idea, though.
Yeah, you understand.
It'll parse it and
yeah, that's the file.
Export it to whatever delimiter.
And there's a lot of options. You can change the field delimiter. You can change the encapsulators.
Cool.
So there are different options that you can use. You can also display a progress bar if the file is very long. Both when you read or save, you can say what encoding to use. So is it ANSI or is it UTF-8, UTF-16? You could read ANSI and save as UTF-16 if you wish. And last thing, which is I think very funny to show, is how you can use a source file that is data, a template, which is HTML template, where you will put some rows, some columns. So I say here album, title, duration. There are built-in variables that I can generate in this function, for example, to display the row number or the file name. And I have a small CSS that will just make the rows being gray or not gray background. And putting all this together will be done, I hope, in a second, especially if I use my cheat file. So here we go.
It's good to have a cheat file.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one times run. Okay, so we have here this file. I think I already entered that here. So I'll just erase it, not to duplicate. I will use the run command to show you the template. Then my command here is collection to HTML. I give it the object that I loaded from the CSV file. I'll pass it the HTML output file, then the HTML template, and I'll tell it to overwrite in case we run it multiple times. Then I will run the HTML file that will display the result in Chrome, I guess. So first is the template I already showed you. Here's I just showed the error level, because if any issue occurs while reading the template, you could have different error level messages that will help you to find out what's the issue. And now it shows
awesome.
the HTML file, and I will just return to the. So you see here that I have the header, which includes the my and name, the file name with no extension. So my Beatles song here at the top. The H1 here is file with the file name here. So that here, that's the beginning of the table. I assume you are a little familiar with HTML, so it's the beginning of the table. And now I have my own delimiters here, which is rows and /rows between tilde. That says everything between these code will be repeated for each line. And for each line, I will create a row. Of course, I entered here the header row, th. And here we have td with the data. So the row number here, the album name, the title name, and the duration. And at the end, I have the source here, which is the full name of my HTML file.
This HTML template, is that something that it can create, or do you need to have?
I made it. You have to provide it.
Okay.
This one is the most simple example I could give, but of course your HTML file could be 20K of text and code, and somewhere you insert your small variable values there. So usually there's much more in an HTML file, but you just have to, in fact, you create your file with a table, and then you find where are the rows, and you replace the rows with these,
your data,
with this here, okay? So it shows you what the library can do.
Some of it. It can do some amazing stuff.
I would say most of it. There's subtleties when you for the different parameters that you can give to each of these options. There are also commands to export to a fixed width values. So different other types of text files that can be can be found. Yeah.
Can you go ahead and switch over to CSV Buddy?
Yeah. So here I'll go to my.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Jean, but CSV Buddy relies upon this library, but it's a program in itself that
it's a kind of front end for this library.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are things that are done in the front end. For example, if you want to sort the list view or things like that, filter, many things are done in CSV Buddy, but the basic of it, to read files, save files, put the content in the list view, is done using CSV Buddy. I'll show it to you using the large file, this one here. Here, all I had to do is to double click because I made the CSV extension link to my CSV Buddy tool. And you see here at the bottom, the progress bar, instead of being a bar, it's a percentage progress that is shown here. And here we have this file with 26,500 lines in it. The size of the file is 2.5 megs.
Later on, we'll have a little discussion about your music collection.
It's now over 30,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so a few things here. It is by default, it will read, when you double click, by default, it will play save and load the file as if it was a multi-line file. But processing a multi-line file is longer. So if you know that your file is not multi-line, you would uncheck this and it will remove the assumption. And now I'll just make the screen, let's say, like this. Now, if I reread the same file, overwriting the current content, instead of doing 2 passes as we had before, it does only 1 and it's much faster. In fact, there are 2 steps. The first step, it reads the file. The second step, it put it in the list view, which was much faster than what we did the first time, about half the time. The other options here, you select the file you want to read. You say if you want to get the header from the file or set the header yourself. If you set it yourself, you enter it here. You can say what is the delimiter. The CSV Buddy will detect the delimiter based on some logic that is quite safe, but you could say don't use it, use this header. Same thing for the encapsulator. If you say it is a multi-line fields file, you can say that in these files there are some replacement. I'll tell you more about that in a minute when you see the export. Here you mention what is, it will auto-detect some of the encoding, but some encoding cannot be auto-detected. So you have to tell it is a UTF-16 raw or etc. here. And so that's the reading of the file. When the file is loaded, you can say that you want to rename the field. So for example, for the first field, I will say it is artist. It's very small, I suppose. I'm sorry for that. I could not zoom it. So I change here, I renamed the first field here. It's been renamed. I will select the field and say I want to use only the 3 first fields. So I select fields and now I have only 3. So this one is very long. So now we have only 3 fields instead of the 6 or 7 we had before. And I want to change the order. I want the LNG being the first now, the track number. So I put it here. I'm using semicolon as a separator in this file. And I change the order. Now it has to reread, to re-put the value in the list view. And we have the track number in the first field here. Then we can save it. When you change what you wanted to change, you can save it. You don't have to edit the column if you don't need to, but if you want, you can do it. And now when you save, you can say save with tab delimiter, which is simply T in this case. Keep the same encapsulator, save the file with the header, and using, for example, UTF-8, and it will be saved in the same folder with the parenthesis 1. So I save. When it's saved, I will have a button load that will allow to check the result. So check. And now we have this file with tabs here between each of these fields. A few lines add no fields for the track number. Okay?
Very cool.
Yeah.
The cool thing, and often what we the most frequent usage I do is I have a file that comes from LinkedIn with a description, for example. I want to put it in Excel because I want to work in Excel, but I could not because of these fields with multiple lines. So what I can do here is to select the file with multiple lines. Where is it? So the lyrics file, get the header from file, load, replace the content. Now we have this content here. It is by default, it was checked here. So if I double click here, no, it's not the right separator. So it's comma here instead of semicolon. Load. So we have here our 5, 4, and we have I have a small GUI that allows to edit the content. It's not Excel, but it allows to do some edition. And you see now that the lyrics are on multiple files. If I want to open it in Excel, what I can do when I save, I can say save it as a single line, and for every line feed inside a field, feed inside a field, put any character you wish. I'm using this one, which is available in my code page. It's not available for everybody, so you could put any character that you are sure that will not be found in your file, okay? To me, it is this symbol that is a line field graphic symbol. I will save it under this name here.
Can it be multiple symbols, or does it need to be one?
I'm not sure, don't remember. I'm using always only one character. Can I type more than one? Let's say that I think it does, because I would have made it. So we could try right here and make it 2 here. So I have now this file, which is the one I changed, where here in the lyrics field, it stands on one line with these separators for each line. Now I can open it in Excel, play with it, play with your fields, hopefully, not changing the lyrics, but play with anything else. And when I save it back with the changes I've done in Excel, I save it in the same format. Now I'll just take a look to this file to see if it changed. Yes, it worked with the 3 exclamation mark I use as separator. So you can use multiple characters. So this file now has, okay, so the file here, if I want to load it after I did some modification in Excel and recreate the line feeds, what I can do here is to say that it is multiple line fields and that the character replacement is, and here I will cheat to copy this character. I think I opened my tool twice. Is it? Yes, more than twice. My tool can open multiple files, which is good and bad. Okay, so multi-line feed and the character replacement here. I say when you see this character, put a line feed. Okay, and now I will save it back. With 1.1, which will hold something that should be save. Okay, replace just to be sure. So I have my file here. It didn't work. Okay, something went wrong.
Didn't it work? No, it didn't. No.
It should return now on different lines for the lyrics. So I say when I load the file, oh, maybe I didn't reload. Okay, I didn't reload. So now I reloaded the file, and now the lyrics are on different lines. And when I save it, save, overwrite, all records, check, reload the file, and now my lyrics are as they were initially after I processed it in Excel. So it's a long way to go to Excel, but if you need to go to Excel because it's so powerful to do so many things, and the only roadblock is that the lines are not correct, so you can take 5 minutes to make the file Excel ready, then process it in Excel, resave it, and remake it in the format that will be okay for the system where you want to send this text file.
Can you decide what the end of line character is? Or is it always N and R? Or
I think it can. You could load the source and change it.
Yeah, okay.
It's open source, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe in the options, a few things I've put in the options tab here when you can change some of the parameters. It's not a very fancy interface. It's quite just make it easier than go to the ini file. But so the HTML delimiter is still, you could change it. So there's nothing here to change it, but maybe in the ini file there's something I just don't remember. But I don't think. Yeah.
The only thing for me is because I'm so lazy, right? And I typically get files in, let's say monthly or weekly, whatever, in the same format, is I would love some sort of a macro recorder where I could say, okay, I'm going to go through the first one, transform it the way I want, save it, and then just be able to reapply that to the files that come later. Is that?
Yeah. No, my project with this, the next step with this would be to support command line. And maybe say that take this setup and give me the command line that I should use the next time, and you could start it using the command line. A kind of save a template, if you wish, of your import, save a template of your export. But it's not there. That's where you would use a CSV head. I mentioned earlier that this tool is good at command line. So for things that are to be repeated, but that's the next step.
All right. Did you have more to go over, or I was thinking?
No, I think I go over the time that was allowed. So
it's okay. I mean, it's good, great stuff. Actually, I'm trying to figure out, because I'm on my phone. I'm in the webinar. I'm going to end it there. I'm going to stop the recording. So let me go in here. All right, stop recording. Where are you?